Afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Also, probably we could say also to good morning for wherever it is you're tuned in from across the globe this day. It's a pleasure to be here this afternoon, at least from where I'm in Nigeria, and where Lieke is also afternoon. And so we say it's a pleasure to be here this afternoon for what we regard as our inaugural Great Conversations with Great Leaders in Kenya. This afternoon, we're having a very special guest, Lieke Aarninkhof. I hope I did well with that pronunciation. She is the managing director of Incentro Africa, and she was going to be speaking on building a winning team, simple strategies for great collaboration. A bit overview about Great Conversations with Great Leaders. It's an initiative of Great Place to Work, and it speaks to the fact that we are building a community of great workplaces. And one of the objectives of that community is to invite as many companies as possible into that community. And one of those ways we have chosen to invite more people into that community so that it becomes a very, very robust, happy family is enabling companies that are great workplaces where leaders can share insights around the reasons why they are a great place to work. And one very unique thing about Great Conversations with Great Leaders is the fact, and I say unique, probably globally or almost globally, is the fact that the topic of conversation is chosen by the leader. So what that does is it enables us to have a great conversation like we look forward to having with Lieke this afternoon. Without further ado, we'd like to ask Lieke, how are you doing this afternoon? I trust you're doing very well.
Thank you. Thank you for that introduction. And yes, I am doing very well. Thank you so much for having me. It's a great honor. And I'm very humbled, especially since this is called Great Conversations with Great Leaders. I feel very humbled. Thank you for having me today.
It's our pleasure to have you today. Kindly, this is for all those who are on this call. If you have any questions, please put them down as we go on with the conversation. It's going to last for about an hour, but we will ask questions around the topic and get Lieke's perspective around those responses with the questions. So if you have any questions, we will certainly have a time for questions and answers. So we'll start by saying, would you be kind enough to introduce yourself to our great esteemed audience?
Of course, I would. Yes. So my name is Lieke. Yes, you pronounced it really well. Thank you. Managing Director at Incentro Africa for the last 8 years. I live in Nairobi, Kenya, but born and bred in the Netherlands. That is also the founding father or mother of this company. So moved to Kenya to start the company. I try to steer the ship basically on a day-to-day. And then besides that, I'm very passionate about fostering a positive and collaborative work environment and really focus on where people can grow and thrive and want to come to work. So that's my absolute reason to come out of bed in the morning.
Excellent. I like the idea around people wanting to come to work. I know from our analysis, we have opportunities of solving companies across Africa. And indeed, there are some companies where people don't want to come to work. And so when you say want to come to work, certainly you don't take it lightly because we see challenges across the globe where being able to create that experience where people look forward to coming to work can be an issue. So with regards to Incentro, could you share a little bit about Incentro? You talked about the mother coming out from Holland. What more can we know about Incentro?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, we are part of a bigger group of companies, but in Central Africa is fully functioning in their own operations and with authority. And what we do, we are a digital service provider that helps organizations, especially in Africa, transform the way they work. We do that with a wide range of products, from implementation solutions, CRM solutions, but also data analytics. And we service 35 countries on the continent, but are operational as a team in Kenya, as where I am, but South Africa as well, with 12 colleagues, and we have one lovely colleague in Rwanda as well. So that's the combination of Incentro Africa. And I think it is also, we are here not to talk about work and what we do, but how we do it. We are a great place to work. So besides that, what truly sets us apart is our strong people focus, and our unique company culture. Because in the end, yeah, you said it well. We believe that when people want to come to work, they also provide that much more to our customers, and you know, do that with a smile, and it is an effect that has on every one of us around us. So that's at the core of everything we do.
Excellent. So in one or two words, how would you describe, or what differentiates Incentro from the average company in Kenya?
In one or two words, eh? So
Or maybe a sentence.
Maybe in sentence. Of course, we have very unique values, but if I need to describe it in one or two words, and then we would be a people first company. So really centered about the success of our people and the growth of our people. That's also our why, unleashing human potential. So that's the reason we come out of bed every single morning.
Okay, and there's this popular quote that says, speaks to the fact that the greatest responsibility of leaders is to make sure that people come to work or come back to work tomorrow. How does this quote apply to you, what you do at Incentro?
Well, maybe not tomorrow, but at least, you know, every week.
Okay.
Because, you know, everyone, so what we believe is everyone can have a very bad day, you know, even a bad month. Because, you know, I, for example, I'm not a really big believer in life-work balance, because I feel that, you know, that is interconnected. So what is the balance, basically? If you have something going on in life, that will also affect your work, and the other way around. So we believe in wanting to come, you know, also on a bad day, and being able to have a bad day and express that also to your colleagues and be comfortable around it, because in the end, we're only human. And I think being comfortable with that makes you want to come to work every week, at least, even if you have a bad day here and there, or maybe even a bad month. But it is very important. In the end, 1/3 of our lives is, you know, 8 hours a day is spent at the office, whether it's remote or in the office premises. And you better make it comfortable, you better make it happy, you better make it collaborative, you know, enjoyable, because 1/3 is a lot, isn't it? And we have to work until, well, you know, they say 60 something, but by the time I retire, it will be 70. So you better make it comfortable and worthwhile.
Excellent. You know, when we had these conversations initially, there was something I kept from you. And George is about to showcase that now. Since 2001, Incentro Africa has been certified as a great workplace. So 2001 to 2002, 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024, and now 2025. And so officially, you are recognized as the first 5-year legend in Kenya.
Legend.
So we have what is called, so maybe George is putting that up now. It's a 5-year legend award that comes to a company like yours in Kenya that has been consistent for 5 years in a row. It's easy. It's probably easy to do it once. So a lot of companies, we have this conversation with some companies that they get certified once, and they just feel like we have arrived. But a company like yours, 5 years in a row, have been certified as a great place to work. It speaks also to a great level of integrity around what you're trying to build, being able to create that experience that employees want to see at work, so that it becomes, like you say, it's a collaborative effort to achieve those objectives. With regards to our topic, and so please give our love to your team, because of course this has been achieved collectively across Incentro. So with regards to building a winning team, in your opinion, what is a winning team?
What is a winning team?
Yes.
That is a very, broad question, right? It has a couple of facets, of course. But I feel, but before I answer, right? Thank you so much again for this legend.
You didn't
Sorry,
expect
it's
it.
still in my face, so I had
Yeah.
to comment around it. Thank you so much. But a winning team starts with a good level of trust. Yeah. And trust is built on that realization that we are humans. We come from different perspectives, different backgrounds. We come from different, it can be culture, but it can also be experience, or it can be those around us, can be all kinds of things. So we see the world very differently. And I think it's very much important that we understand that and build trust, that everybody is competent. They were hired for the right reasons. And everybody therefore is committed to share their efforts towards a shared goal. So we can leverage on that difference of perspective and those different people. Diversity makes us strong. We can leverage on that in terms of our strength. And if that level of trust is there, we will be able to communicate openly and respectfully and ask questions rather than having assumptions on, this person is doing that because of this. We wouldn't know. We wouldn't know if we asked. But if there's the level of trust, and also the open communication, in a respectful manner, we can ask, hey, and from curiosity, where are you coming from? I would love to see that. And then you might be surprised, you might be getting an idea, you might be getting a new perspective. And that brings a winning team to me.
Excellent. I like the fact that it's centered around trust, because of the fact that we at Great Place to Work, our employee engagement survey is basically centered around trust. It's saying to us, or to the organization, or to employees, that employees trust themselves, employees trust senior leaders, employees trust what they do on a daily basis. And so, how do you ensure that everyone on your team understands their roles and they feel comfortable about it in building
Mm,
this team?
Yeah, no, that is very much important. To be honest, when we started, we got a lot of advice from our mother company, which was based in the Netherlands. They're now also operating in Spain and Bali, and of course in Africa. But we got a lot of advice and realized quite quickly on that was kind of Dutch advice. So one of those advice was, we don't document much, we don't structure much. But I came to realize, when people want to fly, they need to be able to understand how. And that is not, well, this is maybe a wrong analogy, because flying is instinct, right? But working somewhere in a specific job might not be instinct. So it is very important for people to know, what are my responsibilities? What do I have to contribute to the team on a day-to-day? So we work very well with job descriptions, the KPIs that are captured within that job description, goal setting, all of that has to be smart. But besides that, we do want to foster an entrepreneurial, innovative culture. So I always tell people to color outside their JD, which basically means do what you do well, but take a leap and do something different. Because in that difference, in that gray area is where you also find yourself and develop yourself. You might pick up tasks that are not necessarily, within your JD, but you might grow to like them. And also that enhances the collaborative spirit that we have as Incentro towards your team, but also towards the company. So it's an opportunity for growth for the people, but it is also an opportunity for contributing to the company. But yeah, it starts with making sure everybody understands their role really well and have that structured and documented, and then give them within that the freedom to do it how they see fit.
Excellent. So I hear understanding. I also hear understanding your role. I also hear having the freedom to do how they deem fit. So levels of great flexibility around that. Have you ever had to realign team members to improve collaboration? And how did you approach this at Incentro?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, we're only human, right? Things can change, but you as a person can also change. And the same for performance. It's not that somebody is performing one day and then the other day you need to realign them. So that really happens. But for me, it's rooted in again open and honest communication. So we do a lot of feedback within the whole organization, but also feedback to me or feedback to the company. So because open and honest communication on that realignment is key, because you don't know why a person has drifted off, and what's the reason for being to having to realign them. So you start by having individual conversations to understand that person's perspective and their challenges, bringing the team together to collectively discuss the issues. And then, of course, focusing on the desired outcome to improve that collaboration. I think, when we work together on redefining roles, clarifying expectations, setting new communication channels, what works for within the team or for a person, that is really crucial to create a safe space. And that safe space then, contributes again to the trust and to have the open and honest communication. So it goes full circle.
Excellent. Typically, around workplaces, line managers are usually driven to be more operational in their thinking. But as they move along the ladder, it becomes more about being strategic around what the overall goal looks like for the organization. And so what role does leadership play in modeling a collective behavior at Incentro?
Yeah, leadership plays a really great role in modeling that. And I believe strongly in leading by example. So I try to really be on the work floor, again, honest and as transparent as I can be. Also sharing in my personal challenges and whether or not I'm having a bad day, to make sure I create that space of safety. But it means active listening, transparency, admitting mistakes. I've done that several times. I hope I do it enough, honestly speaking. And also, not deviating from the mistake, right? Own up to the mistake as a company or as a leadership. And besides that, when listening, valuing diverse approaches and opinions, because that can really enhance how we work together and bring that new innovative culture alive. And we're in the world of IT, it's very much important.
Okay, so in terms of probably further insights around this question, to say, how are you able to marry this conversation where you have maybe a head of a department, that has
Mm-hmm.
ideas around more being protective around his department. But from the higher levels, you need to have them begin to see things differently from the strategic point of view, from the overall point of view, where they need to begin to step out of where they are from the being a departmental leader or head to begin to see
Yeah.
or align with the company's corporate goals and objectives. And so it's at that point I want to be able to see how able to begin to make them see reason to become more aligned to achieve those goals that are more global to the organization.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think um, rarely do we have those type of problems,
Okay.
but that has to do with the way we are structured. So many moons ago, in Central and the Netherlands, they adopted this model formed by Edgar Winter, and it's called a cell model. So basically, it means that when you are bigger than 60 employees, you'll split into two, and that is meant to keep a very flat, low hierarchy. And that is meant in the end to be able to, talk to leadership quicker, I guess, without bureaucracy or something in between. But it is also meant to have a lot of people do functions that are outside their job description. For example, recruitment initiatives, but it could also be marketing initiatives. So I think for us, it really happens that a manager is not aligned with the overall goals of the company, um, because we're able to keep it very flat. And I hope that also trickles down to our employees in terms of that as well. At least they're able to talk to their managers about it, but also to me directly, if that ever were the case. And also, Otamere, we're talking about a company of now almost 40 employees, right? So, and that's what we like, because people can contribute, and it is easy to pick up new initiatives because we are that small and we're not necessarily have the, departmental, the challenges that come with having a more corporate type of setup.
Structure. So I hear there's a lot of flexibilities around the initiatives that you drive at Incentro. It probably helps you to become more agile. There's so much emphasis around companies needing to be agile in taking quick decisions that are important for the business. If
Yeah.
I were going to ask you to give us an example, for instance, to share insights around how trust has helped to make all the difference in your team's success. So would you be able to share maybe just an example that provides clear context around this?
Yeah, I think I have an example of that.
Okay.
So when you have trust, you are able in a team to also allow for conflict, right?
Okay.
And that is healthy. I think a clear example of that we had recently within our team, that had, during a meeting, a small conflict, but it needed to be hashed out. And um, people weren't respectless, is that a word? But they were respectful,
Okay.
but they were able to share their differences of opinion, and not shy away from the conflict. And what that meant is that in the end it was resolved, and the turnaround time for that team to work very well together after that was really quick. And again, that all comes down to that level of trust that was built, and we built that, not only on the work floor but also outside the work floor. So there's a, we there's a couple of colleagues that consider themselves friends as well. So outside of work there's activities, but also within work we have certain activities that make you make you, what is it, see another person better, so not only as a colleague but as a person. And an example of that would be that lately we've been doing I don't know how it is called, but it is very tough exercising in our garden, and where we do these exercises that are building up from a minute to 2 minutes. It's quite intense, but you share a laugh, you share an energy, you share um, putting your body to good use with your colleagues, and that really helps building that trust. And in the end, yeah, that goes full circle. Collaboration is getting the most out of that.
Excellent. One of the challenges of leadership is or a lack of being or ability to be vulnerable. And we see that challenge. And so, in terms of feedback, how are
Mm-hmm.
you able to create a culture where giving and receiving feedback seems like part of the norm at Incentro?
Yeah. Yeah, no, feedback is never easy, right? I don't like feedback as much as the next person. That is just a
Mm,
fact. We are
mm,
humans, so we don't like it necessarily. And also, we take on the negative more than the positive. Um, I tend to always say that, name it constructive feedback. Name it constructive feedback, not negative feedback. In the end, feedback comes from the heart. It comes from a place of me giving it to you or to the organization because I care. I want to improve. I always say that when you're not hearing anything, there's indifference. Even within a relationship, right? Say your spouse is not giving you anything anymore. The marriage is over because there's nothing
yeah.
that you can improve on. So we like to foster it, feedback. We do it within our review, so from our peer-to-peers. But I have done my review recently also and asked people to give me feedback, and it was so helpful. You're not an island in the end. And besides that, we have town hall sessions, and these could also be hosted from anybody within the company that can put something forward in terms of giving feedback towards the company. And of course, Great Place to Work is a great example of that. We don't do it for the prices. Yes, they look so great on my shelf when you enter the office, but we do it for, hey, where can we improve? What is the difference between this year and last year? What has changed? Let's have a conversation around it. So I think feedback is very much important, even though it's not easy. When it comes, just know that it comes from a place of love.
Okay, so maybe for you it's easy, but for your managers, is there like a structured process around this where um, people can receive feedback or just you just allow the flow in terms of feedback?
That's a really good question. And honestly, I'm working towards it. So what we tend to have now is it is structured, but not really well structured, because we tend to do our reviews, every one of us, every 6 months, and gather feedback. But what I want to do is have that more in a continuation, in a continuous loop. We do it a lot when it comes to positive feedback. So what we do is we share tacos with one another, and a taco is a really it's a symbol actually in our Slack operation where we communicate together, and we say, hey, you've done so well. Here's some tacos. So basically some flowers to celebrate you. But we don't do it with constructive feedback. So I would love to have that as a continuation. Our managers, they do it with their employees, with their staff on a monthly basis. But I would love to have that as a peer-to-peer as well. If an event has ended, to give each other feedback. If now whatever situation was there, you did a presentation or whatnot, to have that constructive feedback, because yeah, every 6 months is always, we're only human, right? So we remember what happens yesterday, not 6 months ago. So it's really good to have that continuation. And yeah, that's something we're actively working towards at the moment.
Okay, excellent. Great to know. In terms of like tools, are there specific tools that are utilized at Incentro to help in terms of improvements and collaborations within your team, or are you just basically? I like people to have get understanding around that. Are you deliberate around some specific tools, measurement tools? You talked about the Great Place to Work survey. Are there other ways that you're measuring to ensure that there's a deliberate attempt at improving collaboration within in Central?
Yeah. It's a good one because a lot of what we actually sell to our customers are SaaS solutions that are heavily reliant on collaboration. So Google Workspace is one of those, but also Monday.com. And we also use them ourselves in our company to collaborate well. So it's all in real time to be able to collaborate well. We try to have as much as we can in our shared work domain in terms of knowledge base. So how does our work processes flow and all these type of things. But on a day to day, I think the most important thing we do is working with Slack. So that would be a messaging systems where we have different channel in there, but one that we all share is called the happiness channel, and that is where we celebrate each other on a day to day, but also say good morning on a day to day. Because even though we have two physical offices in South Africa and in Kenya, in Nairobi, we have those that work remotely. We have a couple in South Africa that are away. We have, of course, our Rwandan colleague, but also we work from home. So, to say good morning in Slack is still something that we do because we might not see each other on a day to day. As you can see, maybe I'm home today, so I'll go to the office tomorrow. But yeah, I will try to collaborate on those tools as well.
Excellent. I'm going to do a little bit more around communication, and this is important because with the Great Place to Work survey, we asked two questions that are pertinent. One that says management is competent at running this business. The other one
Yeah.
that's around communication says management keeps me informed about what I need to do to get my job done. And for a number
Yeah.
of companies, we see a gap as high as 30% between employees saying management is competent. And when it comes to communication, it says management doesn't keep me informed. And what we say to our clients is, where we see this huge gap, is to say to them that competence rides effectively on effective execution for the business. And execution requires effective communication to ensure that strategic intent is well cascaded across the entire organization. And so within Incentro, are there specific ways that you get to communicate so that a number of times we carry out the survey and people say people just talk. But in terms of communication, where it becomes a two-way channel where people can speak and get and are so certain that this message has been passed across to the listener, is there like a structured way around communication with organization to ensure that you effectively cascade whatever strategic plans are so that everyone gets to understand what is expected of them on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah. Well, that's a very good observation and question, honestly. So what I've learned is three things. So you can make all the documentation that you want, but it doesn't necessarily mean that all the people get the message, right? And it is important to be able to answer the same question about these things over and over and over again. What I've also learned is you might have established something, and 5 of your most senior employees, and I mean seniority in terms of duration at the company, they might be well aboard, but if you onboard 5 new people, then they might not know, and you need to keep sharing. You need to keep sharing. So it's an ongoing thing of answering the same questions, alliterating the same things that are important to us, and sharing that, and still doing that with energy, and as if it was the first day, because these people might not know, right? They're new, or they've forgotten, whatever it is. So I think it's very important to keep listening, to keep answering the questions, to have the town halls that we do, but we also host lunch and learn sometimes, where we eat and learn something about whatever it can be. And honestly speaking, over the years, subjects have come back, because you have to keep sharing what, as a company, you feel is important, and also the changes that you've made as a company. So over the last years, our values and our why, and what we do hasn't changed, but we're still in IT, so we might change our direction or our proposition, for example. So it's very important to keep people informed. Um, then the other thing I've learned is, what level of transparency do you give? Because you do want to be transparent, but you also don't want to alarm people. You don't want to scare them away. You don't want to give them numbers that they can't really comprehend. So it's really important to be transparent, but be that in a way that everybody takes it home for their own purpose, for their own job, so that they feel better. But they don't have to carry the weight of the world, right? That is my job, and I hope I'm doing a competent job at that. But I'll receive feedback after this webinar, I'm sure.
Excellent. We have always had the opportunity of going to your culture when we do a culture audit with our yearly assessments for your company. And when we get to read what your policies and practices look like, I always wonder what a day at work in Incentro looks like. So can you share with our audience what a typical day at Incentro looks like?
Yeah. Yeah, what a typical day at Incentro looks like. I think it's, you come in, there's already, it's clean when you come in. The coffee is being made, the tea is ready. And people say hi. We don't say hi. We hug, or we high five. Yeah, it depends on the preference, of course, but we genuinely say hi to one another. Have a little conversation. Maybe if it's Monday, then about the weekend, of course. And we start our day. Um, and you meet again, maybe outside. We have the privilege of having a very nice garden in Kenya, but also in South Africa. Okay, now it's extremely cold. Nobody is sitting in South Africa in the garden, but you could. But there's at least within the office multiple spaces where you can also just collaborate, meet at the coffee corner, or meet at a place where you can just sit and lounge. But a lot of our Kenyan colleagues at the moment, they're sitting outside, because when there's sun, it's a little bit better than inside. And you see these little cliques form where they collaborate, or they don't even in the same team, but they work together. So they have their laptops open, and they just work in a smaller circle together. Um, and that's what the day looks like. And at the end of the day, people say bye bye, and see you tomorrow. So it feels warm. It feels like a place you want to be, which is my main purpose. Again, it's what I said at the beginning, right? It's the reason I want to come out of bed in the morning, is to give people a reason to come to work.
Excellent. That's looking forward. One of these, looking forward to visiting in central
You're so
Kenya.
welcome.
I'm
You're so
sure.
welcome.
Excellent. And in all of this, how do you ensure that everyone, regardless of their background, is included in decision making within Central? What's that like in terms of decision making?
Yeah, we find it very important that people are able to make their decisions, right? So we work with autonomy. So of course you have to get your job done, right? That is very important. You are hired for a reason. You have to get your job done, but how you do it is your decision. And I think having that sense of ownership um, makes for accountability within yourself, and feeling that you're able, hey, I have to do this, but I can make my own decision in how. So it doesn't feel like a job, but it feels like something that you want to do. It feels like something that is contributing. So I think that is very much important, to be able to allow people to make their own decision. And with that also comes great ideas, and a lot of new opportunities, that we maybe as leadership didn't think about, but that is just because people are able to choose for themselves.
Themselves. In terms of demographics, what's it like with in age demographics in Central? What's the spread like?
Okay, good question. So generally we are quite a young company, since we are of course in the world of IT. It used to be, I was always able to say the average was 25, but that is slightly older now. I would definitely say that is a 35. But yeah, we do have some people that I don't want to say older. That doesn't sound so nice. But let's just keep it at the average age is about 35. What we like to do a lot, is have a balance of that. We tend to want to hire, or work with a lot of interns. So they might be fresh out of uni. They might be very much interested in something, that is what we do. So they might not even have gone to college for that same subject, because they come with fresh eyes, energy, um, new ideas, and that adds to our senior staff as well. So we try to have a very fair mix of seniority and bubbly energy from the more juniors we have on board.
So you wouldn't say that there is a well, challenges are good, but you wouldn't say that I think Central Gen Zs coming with a different kind of vibe that affects your culture. Would you say that at Incentro?
I see Gen Zs as such a positive, new perspective, opening your eyes. Yeah, I feel we need to welcome that perspective, because again, if I don't believe in work-life balance, most of Gen Zs also don't necessarily do that, right? They want to just have a holistic life. And that is what I aim to do as well. So I feel that new ideas, and I heard about, an example of that. I heard about another company. They had a scream room just to go there and scream your lungs out. And it was, it was introduced by Gen Z. I was like, oh, that's interesting. Yeah, yeah, because everybody has that. Everybody is like sometimes worked up, or sometimes things are not your way, and these things. So I want to embrace it for sure.
Yeah, that sounds interesting. I think we're going to open up the room now to questions. George, are there any questions, or is there anybody who has a question? I think we can unmute now and get the questions in. Hello, George, are there any questions?
Hi, Mr. Otamere.
Yes.
There is no question at the moment.
Okay, but probably to say that, do you have any questions for Lieke at this time? It would be nice to have them now. You can either, are they allowed to unmute themselves and ask the questions, or how does this go, George?
If they want, they can request to be unmuted.
So how would I request coming? Through a text or what? Or a message?
They can drop a shout or raise their hand.
Okay. Excellent. So while we're waiting for those questions, if there are any questions, please share them with us so that we can have our guests provide these responses to those questions. But in terms of recognition, what's your approach to recognizing individuals or teams for their achievements in building this team?
I think recognition is something that's very personal, honestly speaking. So I feel it's very important that we do it on a personal, customized way. Some people like to be recognized with everybody around them, and some people like to be recognized, one-on-one. Some people want to be recognized with a very, attentive gift. And some people want an experience. So I feel it's very much important to see what somebody is doing and then know this person so you can recognize and appreciate them well in their way. See it almost as a birthday gift where you know this person and you really you go out of your way. And it is not about money, it's about the thought that counts, right? It's about what you have thought of. So I think that is very important.
Okay, there's a question in the chat room. So what are your plans to improve your ratings for the next Great Place to Work survey? Interesting question.
Yeah. So again, we do the survey not only to be recognized, right? That's just nice. That's a nice to have. We do it to be able to improve. Because 5 years in a row, that's not easy. What got you there won't get you there, right? That's very important. So what we do always is analyze our questionnaire and see, hey, what came out of it that stands out? What is different than last time? But also what might not even be a question before, but it is now. So we look at that. And recently we have done some fireside chats with some champions, so without leadership. And they went and sat together with people to just brainstorm on these things, but also come with solution oriented, because you can't, it's about improving, right? So you can't bitch about what's happening, but you need to actively contribute to the culture, to improving. So these things have these fireside chats had very surprising things that come out of it with that we can work on. So that's what we actively do to hopefully improve the score, right? But again, that's what we do as a company. But in essence, improving the score is within each and every employee, not in case of how they fill it, but in case of how they are behaving when they are at the office, when they are at work. Because, living by example, showing by example, doing that on your day-to-day will improve the score because you're giving that back to your peers and your colleagues.
Yes, maybe a follow-up question to this, and this is learning for especially those who are done the survey for the first time. And how do you keep people motivated to get to do the survey again? 5 years in a row, you're looking for the sixth one. How do you keep them motivated to? We're going to do it again next year. I know in across the globe, we have companies that have done it for 25 plus years, and so how do you keep them motivated to get going?
Yeah, I'm sure that some of my colleagues will tell me that she can be quite a nag around that period, because I tend to always ask specifically, hey, did you feel it? Did you feel it? And of course, because it's anonymously, you never know who. Because I find it important. I want to have that score that is higher than the minimum, because everybody has a voice and a different opinion. So I find it very important to almost go to 100% in filling the questionnaire. In terms of motivation, I'm not sure people are every year motivated to fill it. But I think they are. I should ask them, but I think they are, because in essence, again, it's contributing to them. It's for their benefit. It's for our company culture. And the reason you want to come to work tomorrow, right? So by filling it, you can actually help that.
Excellent. The Incentro way is quite unique in itself. And so that's why I asked some questions. We want to be able to see exactly, sharing clear examples around those questions. And so can you share just one example on how celebrating a small win made a very big impact at Incentro?
I think celebrating a small win is a good example, maybe from, because a small win, I feel, might be best described if it comes from somebody that might be new to the company, but also might be very junior to the company. If you celebrate that, you show what is the right behavior, what is it we want to see, what is it we want to. So it might be a small win for for the whole company, but it is such a big win for that person, and that trickles down to the team they're working with, to their colleagues that see, hey, that was fantastic, I could do the same. It inspires. So I think celebrating small wins in the end is a big win, because it has a very good ripple effect that you want to have.
Excellent. For the collective good of the organization.
Yes,
Somebody wants to ask a
the
question.
collective good.
Who's that, George?
Okay, there's a person that raised his hand up.
Somebody raised their hand up. No, apologies, I didn't see that.
The person has brought it down.
Okay, how do you measure collaboration success at Incentro Africa? What metrics matter most to you? How do you measure collaboration success at Incentro Africa? What metrics matter to you most? Thanks a lot, Sonki.
Okay, collaboration success. Well, of course, you have the company goals that trickles down into the teams, that trickles down in your personal KPIs, right? So I think when a team achieves something that adds to that, it is celebrated. But I think what is most important in answering this question is that you celebrate it collaboratively. It is, with some companies I've seen that there's a deal being signed, and the person being recognized for that is the salesperson, but you forget that there's also those engineers that were part of it during the demo, or during the proposal making. There is, it's a real team collective when something is achieved. So I think the most important thing is to recognize what is achieved, and to celebrate the collective when that is due.
Excellent. It's been a very, very, very interactive session this afternoon. I want to thank
Thank
our
you.
guests for being open, sharing insights around the Incentro way and how they've been able to create a great work experience the last 5 years, at least working with us with Great Place to Work Institute. It's been a pleasure having you, Lieke, for this session. Thank you for all the insights, and keep on doing the great work that you do at Incentro. maybe I'll probably say to the next 5 years. Maybe it's the 10-year Legend Award that
Yeah.
we're looking forward to. Why not? Certainly.
Why
We wanna
not? Why not?
Thank you very much. We want to thank everyone who's been part of this session today. Like we mentioned, this is our inaugural Great Conversations in Kenya. It's a monthly event, so look forward to invitations to the next one in Kenya for Kenya. Thank you for your time. Have a great day.
Thank you so much. Thank you so
Bye.
much.